So, yeah, thank you so much for calling. We're looking forward to the greatest hits release. How long has that thing been in the works?
I think it was suggested to us about May of this year. I guess it's the first time it became kind of a serious proposition.
Yeah, well, it's an awesome idea. Did you have much trouble figuring out which songs to include on there and which songs were going to get excluded?
Only really like when I got to the last couple. I think of the 16 old songs that are on there, probably like the first 12 when I started to make a list, was pretty kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Then it's got slightly into the realms of not too much personal choice, but I kind of it was like instinctive because I didn't actually end up choosing my favourite Cure singles. I tried to be more honest than that. My main criteria were that they should have been commercially successful and or meant something to the group in a wider sense.
Well, I look at the track listing, and it really is a great retrospective and really sort of highlights what a great body of music you guys have contributed along the way. I look after this, and it's like one great song after another. Now, you mentioned that some of your personal favorites didn't make it on here. What are your favorite Cure songs?
Well, it's not just Cure songs. Even my favourite Cure singles didn't make it on. I mean, I really like Letter to Release. I like Fascination Street, Pictures of You, Charlotte Sometimes. These are all probably, if it could be a straight choice of like what my favourite Cure singles are, those four, and probably Hot 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 as well would have made it onto the final list. But I was trying to be, when the project was originally suggested, there were some strange lists flying around from the various record labels around the world of what they thought constituted the Cure's greatest hits. I established very early on that it was just going to be taken from the singles. I think that I'm not the unfortunate thing, but I suppose it's weird in that this greatest hit doesn't really reflect what the Cure is about. It's only kind of one part of the picture, which is strange. I think with most bands, if you take their greatest hits, you're probably going to get an idea of what that band's all about. But with the Cure have led the same kind of double line, and the greatest hits kind of sums up the pop side of the band, but really misses out on I think we're probably missing out on the major part of what we've done over the years.
Channel 1049, it's Johnny X with more of my interview with Robert Smith from The Cure. So is there a plan in the works to release something else that will be more representative of how you see the band and the dynamic of everything the band represents?
Well, in the course of putting this together, I've had a couple of conversations about the possibility of putting together some kind of anthology companion disc, which would be probably on CD would just be kind of my choice of songs to kind of like balance it out, I suppose. But probably more interestingly would be geared more towards a DVD release, which would include, I would kind of narrate the whole thing, and it'd be more sort of like a Cure story from, my perspective. So I think from a fan's point of view, that'd probably be a little bit more exciting than just my choice of what my favourite Cure songs. So anyone could do that, and most people probably have. I mean, I know I do. It's my favourite artist. So. But I think that it would be nice to have a companion CD out alongside the greatest hits to kind of, to show the other side of the band. But then this album is really, it's driven by the record companies, and it's aimed at non-Cure fans. So, I mean, I suppose there's not that much interest in non-Cure fans in obscure Cure songs. I think they're trying to get to people who sort of think they're only ever going to buy one Cure album, it's going to be the greatest hits. So.
Yeah, I think there's probably an appetite for both. I mean, this is something that I think the Cure fans and the non-Cure fans will enjoy, but you have such a passionate fan base. I have friends who have Cure fan as part of their email. It's it's just it really is amazing the impact that you've made on these people.
Hopefully this will serve as a key to unlock the door to the B-side collection, which for me will be the next step. I mean, it's something that I've wanted to happen for a couple of years now. And most fans that get in touch with us want to know when is the B-side collection coming out, because a lot of the early ones aren't available. Were never available on CD, and also there's enough kind of rarities, decent rarities and outtakes and stuff for us to put together a disc of that nature. So there's still a lot of stuff there that's kind of is retrospective in nature that I think would be of more interest to Cure fans, the kind of the hardcore audience, stuff that they haven't really been able to get hold of. I think the greatest hits is it's enlivened by the inclusion of a couple of new songs, and obviously with the companion CD to it, there's the Acoustic Hits, which was done in order to excite, the fan base.
Channel 1049, it's Johnny X back with Robert Smith from The Cure.
I was going to ask you about the acoustic CD. Now, which I haven't seen the track listing on that. Which songs did you put on there?
It's the exact same track listing as the greatest hits itself.
Oh, wow.
So what we did, we just rehearsed and reinterpreted.
All right. Now, I definitely look forward to that. Did you add any different arrangements to it? Is it just stripped down? How would you describe the acoustic version?
Well, they're not. How can I put this? They are, as we played them, they're not kind of carted up in any way. So some of them work really well, some of them not so well. Some of them are great, some of them not so great. I mean, it's slightly hit or miss. Although it's strange in that some of the ones that I thought we would never be able to pull off are actually the best ones on there. Things like Wrong Number and Never Enough. I think because they sound so different, they actually sound really good. It's obvious that songs like Just Like Heaven, and Friday I'm in Love, they're going to work as acoustic songs because they're pretty much acoustic songs anyway. When they were written on acoustic guitar. So it was just, for us, it was a way of doing something different, I suppose. And we were just thinking, if we were fans of a band, it would be nice to hear them playing stuff in a stripped down sort of acoustic way. It's slightly kind of naked sound. It's you feel like you're there. I mean, I left the mixes pretty much as it went down to tape, so everyone's in their own position. We kind of sat in a circle and did it, and you sort of feel like you're in the room with us. So it's not a big production number. It's sort of like if someone that sneaks in with a bootleg mic, sort of one of our rehearsals. It's kind of what you'd get.
So we light some candles and sit on the floor and turn the lights dim and listen to the Acoustic Cure.
That's exactly the deal.
Channel 1049, we're back with Robert Smith from The Cure.
So you got a lot. I mean, for a Cure fan, this holiday season, there's something for everybody. You also have the DVD coming out. Now, what kind of footage are we going to see on the DVD? Or is it videos? Is it behind-the-scenes footage, interviews, or what is it?
Well, it's all the accompanying videos to the singles, and there's a few other surprise bits thrown in there. Easter eggs, I think they call them, don't they? There's also a 30-minute section of which we filmed when we were doing the acoustic versions. We used the same video director as directed the latest TCDB videos. Richard Anthony came to the studio and brought a few cameras, and that's a very kind of informal thing. Although I must admit, he has put it together really well. It looks very professional.
I've always considered you to be one of the more enigmatic figures in popular music. If we watch the DVD, will we get a glimpse of who Robert Smith is? Will we get to know you a little bit better?
Well, when we were kind of initially excited by the possibility of the DVD, and I started to pull out footage that I thought would be good to accompany the individual videos, as we did when we did the Stand on the Beach video compilation in '86, which is the first 10 years of singles. We put in all kinds of footage in between to kind of give a flavour of time passing, and what was going on at that moment. But the constraints, I mean, one of the things that sort of put me off dealing with majors, is everything has to go through lawyers, and everyone's so paranoid about who owns what, that we kind of ground to a halt, really, in that we were allowed to use certain bits of certain footage and not other bits, and it just became really lopsided. And so I felt that rather than go at it half-heartedly, we just kind of leave that for the anthology. So we're also doing a microsite, me and Roger, for the Greatest Hits, which was kind of driven by this frustration of not being able to put more stuff on the DVD, where we're going to be putting stuff up on the web, which we know we don't own, but we're going to see if the people who do own it come across it, and if they do, we'll just take it down. But I suppose it's slightly different to having it on a DVD when we'd probably be taken to court. So we didn't really have enough time to clear things in order to make the DVD more of a kind of historical package. But having said that, I mean, there are other things on there other than what you see on the sleeve. So it's just a question of finding it.
Here, that's new music from The Cure on Channel 1049 from their forthcoming Greatest Hits collection. We're talking with Robert Smith.
All right. Have you been getting into the new technologies like DVDs and the internet and just all the new technologies that have evolved over the last decade or so?
Yeah, I mean, me and Roger have we've always done our website. We've always maintained it and uploaded. I still struggle. I don't even have an ICN line. I still have the tenacity to upload the sound files, so that shows how much I am involved in it. It takes about 45 minutes to upload about 2 megs. But no, I mean, with the DVD thing, I was interested in the process, and it's our first one. I've always resisted a DVD release before now because I thought it was absolutely crass the way that the home players were made available as play-only models when the recording versions were available. It's just they wanted to sell them twice over, and I thought that was just wrong. So the first recordable home players came out this summer in the UK, so I felt it was all right for us to have a DVD release, because I'll probably get a player this Christmas now that I can record with it as well.
Yeah. Now, as an artist, you mentioned downloading music. Now you're talking about recordable CD technology. I'm getting the impression that you're a fan of it and you support it. Is that the case? What's your take on being able to go and borrow other people's music that someone else bought?
Tricky area. I think that I have two views in it, which I find it difficult to reconcile, because on the one hand, I'm having declined the offer to re-sign with any of the majors that we've been with for the last 20 or so years. As soon as this album's out, I'm a free agent for the first time in my adult life. I can do whatever I want, and that obviously includes putting stuff up on the internet. But I feel obliged to find a model that will work not just for me, but that will work if it's going to be a precedent-setting model. It has to kind of like work for other people who aren't in as fortunate a position as I am. I mean, obviously, I don't have to earn money from everything I do, because we've had so much success with the band that I'm not, I'm find myself in that position. But I also realise that through the history of The Cure, we have taken great pains behind the scenes to change things in favour of the artist. We really have kind of like gone out on a limb at times with contracts and so forth, and held out for certain things, which has become precedent-setting clauses in contracts. I mean, this is like completely, the public is oblivious to all this, but it's one of those things that I felt very strongly about, because the artist is always at the end of the chain. So I really, as an artist, I think it's completely wrong that music should be freely available on the internet. And yet, the position I find myself in on a personal level, I think I can think of nothing better than just recording something at home and uploading it that night for everyone to listen to. So I'm kind of caught in a slight dilemma, because I have to discover a model that will allow me the flexibility to somehow include both options. And I think there are some models out there which are being developed, which work, which are kind of flexible enough to allow you to listen to a certain amount of music, say, for nothing. But then if you want to follow it up, you have to pay for it.
Channel 1049, it's Johnny X with Robert Smith from The Cure. Have you discovered any new artists while you've been on the web, or anything that you've sort of like taken under your wing that you're trying to get out there for people?
I haven't. There are a few sound files on my computer by people who are unsigned, and I think that when I've kind of decided on what course of action we're going to take, then I probably will start to include other people in that plan. I've already made tentative steps in that direction, but by contacting people who are actually in other bands to see what they would feel about becoming part of some kind of collective. It's quite tricky though, because most bands of a certain stature are signed to majors themselves, so they don't have the liberty. But there are one or two who are coming to the end of their respective contracts, so that could be an interesting opportunity. And have always been loath to actually set up my own label, because it just means I become an employer, and it's something I've always resisted, because I'm just not cut out for that, really.
Yeah, I think that you're in such a unique position that when you find bands that you believe in, you as an artist hold such cachet, and you have such a devoted base of fans that I think when you find some of these bands, if you go and endorse them, not through a record label, your fans are going to check them out. Just they'll give them the benefit of the doubt just because you're giving them your signature of approval, basically. Yeah,
it has worked to a degree in the past. I mean, we've got a tradition of taking bands on tour with us. And hopefully that helps those respective bands, on the next leg of their journey. But it often as not doesn't work out like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's no guarantee. In fact, it's the kiss of death for a lot of them that they don't measure up in some way, and so Kill fans are kind of discerning consumers, and it's you know, just because we see something or hear something in a band, it isn't always that easy, because the Kill audience is a highly intelligent audience, and it isn't, you know, just because I say something's good doesn't mean that they think it's good. It doesn't work quite like that.
Channel 1049, it's Johnny X. Thanks for joining me for an hour with The Cure's Robert Smith.
Now, I have a question for you about the song that you put out a long time ago. It was controversial then, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of interest in it now, even though on the surface it's not what it seems. But since September 11th, have a lot of people been bringing up Killing an Arab to you?
You're only the fourth person, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So, and you can tell a story, but as I understand it, you know, the surface, Killing an Arab, is not actually what that song is about. What is that song actually about, and does it relate to any of the events that we're seeing internationally these days?
No, I mean, the song was one of the very first songs I ever wrote, which I was still at school when I wrote it. I was 16. If I'd known then that I was going to be discussing it 25 years later, I would have called it something else. It's based on a story by Albert Camus, a book called L'Étranger, The Outsider, and the fact that an Arab is killed in the course of the story is to do with the geographical location of the story, which is set in the south of France, and it's to do with superficially it's to do with the French-Algerian conflict, which exists in some regard to this day, but it wouldn't really have been as true a story if it had been an Eskimo on the beach, or in fact any other nationality. So the fact that it was an Arab was because it was set in the south of France. I've had to deal with it on a number of occasions. I think on the Gulf crisis is one that springs to mind. A couple of times I've had to sticker an album that it appeared on, and I've been to America. We've played shows, benefit shows for homeless Arab children, homeless Israeli children. It's, you know, it's one of the things. It's the only thing actually I would change in everything that I've done. I would call it something different. I would not have written the song. The song's actually about the fact that everyone's existence is essentially the same. That's the whole point of the song. It's that everyone's born, everyone lives, everyone dies, and you couldn't really take a position much further away from being racist than that. The fact that everyone is equal. So it's never been that hard for me to kind of disavow people as you know, what they originally might imagine the song's about. But
say I'm sorry if I thought that it would change your mind.
Channel 1049, it's Johnny X with more of my interview with The Cure's Robert Smith. How have the events that are going on in our world, because you know, you're living in the UK these days still, right?
Yeah.
You guys seem to be an active participant, and you know, probably a similar state of concern about just the nature of our world. How's that impacted you personally?
I think it would be impossible to be unaffected by it. I mean, I haven't lived in London for 10 years, and but I travel there. I go there pretty regularly, at least once a week. And it's much more noticeable in London, the kind of the level of tension that exists than it is in the suburbs. It's but I think, I mean, it's such a traumatic event, September the 11th, that the world really did change, and it's no, I'm pleased that the UK's taken the position that it's taken, just in with actually standing up alongside America. I think it's good. I think it's a characterful decision. I think it's an incredibly complex situation, but I think that you know, there is a certain sort of sense of morality involved, and I think it would be wrong not to stand up and be counter.
It seems like the UK has been much more conscious and alert of terrorist threats than we have over here in the States. I was in England earlier and noticed there wasn't any garbage cans in the underground, and I saw little signs because of terrorist threats. So I guess it's not really a new threat as much as it is over here in the States.
No, I mean, I think it was 82 in London. There's the big Harrods bomb that went off, and I was actually in an apartment in the next street along, and it blew all the windows in. So I've had first-hand experience of. Thankfully, I wasn't harmed, nor was anyone with me. But it's terrifying. It's random and it's insane and it's wrong. And the band know a lot of people that live in New York, and it's an awful day. I mean, just on a personal level, as you can imagine, it's just shocking. And for the world to reach this point, it's kind of incredibly demoralising. It's awful having talking to younger people about it as well. I mean, really young kids who kind of like in their early teens and that, who feel really unsettled by what's going on. I think it's just wrong, really, to visit that on a younger generation.
1049's An Hour with the Cure continues now with Robert Smith. Here's Johnny X.
So now you mentioned you go to London quite a bit. Are you able to blend in? Are you able to walk down the streets without being mobbed? Do people respect your privacy? How does it go when you try to go out in public? Because you're certainly over here you're a big figure, and I imagine in London it's exaggerated 100 times probably.
Well, it depends what I'm doing really. If I'm the biggest problem I get in London is actually from tourists. It's not from people who get in London. The UK is probably the least pure, concerned country in the whole of the world.
Really?
We've been marginalised to such a degree that even though people kind of like know who we are, I don't think they're that bothered. Which suits me down to the ground really, because it means I can live pretty much a normal life. The only constraints I've got are that if I go out to sort of do things like see other bands, it's pretty likely that there are going to be other people in the audience who are Cure fans, and that's when I encounter it. But in my everyday life, it has always been quite straightforward for me actually to just get, I mean, I get shouted at quite a bit, but I got shouted at before I was in the group, so it doesn't really bother me.
What do they shout at you?
Well, just like because of what I look like, basically.
Now, we mentioned before, you said, you're a bit of an enigma. There's always an air of mystery around you. What do you do when you're not making music with the Cure and everything? Do you go and play sports? Do you watch TV, go to the movies? What do you do when you're
I try and turn base metal into gold in a small cave at the bottom of my garden.
What are you doing?
Yeah. I just do normal things. I read a lot. I go out walking. I interact with people. I don't get up in the morning and hold down a job, and that's the only thing I don't do. But pretty much everything else I do, like everyone else. I'm in a weird position for me, not because of what I do, it's because of what I don't do. Because I don't have to get up and go to work, I kind of feel like I'm in a really unusual, an enviable position, I suppose.
Any books you want to recommend?
I can't even think what I'm reading. Actually, I've just read a book, Outsider Art. That's the one that's I'm just reading down on the floor. That's what I just finished yesterday.
What was it called?
Outsider Art.
All right. Who was the author?
Spontaneous Alternative. It's about untrained visionaries and the art that they create. It's like the art of asylums, basically. It's just an interesting little book.
Well, Robert Smith from The Cure, thank you so much for calling Channel 1049. You have your greatest hits collection coming out on Tuesday the 13th with the acoustic collection, and then November 27th, the DVD, Cure fans and casual Cure fans are going to get a big treat, and I really appreciate you calling in. It was very much a pleasure to talk to you.
So thank you very much.
And good luck.
Right, thanks. Thank you again.